back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to review a new favourite book of mine, and that is this one, The Poppy War, which is by R.F. Kuang. I love this book so much, and I'm so glad I got an advance reader copy. I believe this came out on the 3rd of May, so it is actually out for you guys to pick up if you are interested. And let me tell you why I think you should. This book, I will start off by saying, is pretty brutal, and there are actually a lot of things that I would warn you about, trigger warnings, so I'm just going to quickly list them for you before I start this review. Things to look out for in this book are rape, self-harm, substance abuse, torture, genocide, and racism. There is a lot, so bear that in mind if you're going to read this. It's definitely not shying away from violence and horror and so on. If you can get past those sorts of things, then this may be a book that you will really enjoy. I would class this kind of as a military fantasy meets a coming of age story. We follow a young woman, or a young girl when we first meet her, called Rin, and she lives in a village with her step family. She is an orphan of war, so she doesn't really know anything about her real family, but she's come and joined this family and she works in the shop for them. However, one day her step-parents come to her and they say, we're going to marry you off because we need the money, and they're in the opium trade. So she's a little bit worried about who they could be marrying her off to. She doesn't feel comfortable with it and she wasn't consulted. So she goes to a friend of hers who is a teacher, and she asks him to teach her so that she can pass the Keju, which is a big exam that anyone can enter, and if you pass it and you get really high grades, then you get accepted into an academy where you can train and learn for free. It's essentially a scholarship, all of the ways of becoming part of the military for this world. So, of course, we follow her journey as she tries to learn all of these things. She has a very good memory, and she is very determined as well, because she does not want to go and live with whoever it is her family have picked for her. So she, of course, takes this test, and then she ends up going to this academy. So the book is divided into 3 parts, really. We follow Rin at first as she is learning for this test and studying hard, and then we follow the second part where she is at the academy, and the third part where she eventually joins the military. It does skip through quite a few years, so it's not your typical coming-of-age story where you spend ages doing montages of just learning and training. It does have some of that, but it doesn't feel like it drags on or anything because it's only a section of the book, and then we have completely crazy actions taking place in the latter half as well. I love this. Right from the start, I love the Eastern and Asian influence that I thought was very well done. Personally, I'm not Asian, so obviously I can't speak for how well it was done, but I do have friends who are and have reviewed this and said they thought it was very well handled, so I'm happy to report that. And I also think that this is just super fast-paced and fun. Rin herself is a character that you can definitely get behind, even though she makes some annoying decisions. I think every main character does this. She still has reason behind her decisions, and I think there are things you can sympathise with even if you don't agree with. So I really enjoyed her character right from the start and just found her fascinating to read about and follow. Also, I think the world itself is very interesting. We don't see too much magic in the first section, but later on we do follow a couple of people who have a kind of magic that they can call on, and the influence is largely from Chinese history and culture. Later on, the magic kind of becomes more of a key part of the story, and we see that it's all focused on gods and shamans in this world. So we follow Rin as she tries to learn all of the magic of this world alongside all her military studies, and also take part in a war that has been brewing for many years. In terms of the magic, there are very few people left in the world who can actually wield the magic, because many of them were of Spearly heritage and the Spearleys were almost entirely wiped out. But the ones who are left are able to draw on the power of the Phoenix, one of the gods, and ask for their help in exchange for a trade. However, of course, the trade is always more than you wish to give away. And one of the things to remember about this world as well is that everyone who does possess magic will definitely eventually go mad or die. One or the other. So it's not exactly a path that most people seek, although if you are power hungry, of course, magic is a good way to get that. So it's definitely an interesting concept. The plot of this one feels very fast paced. Again, I said that it's divided into 3 parts. I think those 3 parts really help you kind of get a good clip with the story. I read it over a couple of days, quite a lot of reading in the evening and just enjoying it. And I really just immersed myself in the world and soaked up the fantasy elements and the Chinese elements and the magical elements and the character and her plot and her story and her problems. And I thought it was done really, really well, especially because this is a debut book and I am always in awe of debut books that do incredible things, and I think this one, it was great. So it's a great start to a series, a great start to the career of R.F. Kuang. I'm so excited for the sequel that I don't know what it's called or when it comes out or anything, but I already want it. I hope it comes out within a year or so, because yeah, this is so good. And the second part of this book, or like the later half, is so dramatic. There were so many twists and turns. Things went from dark to darker to darkest I've ever read. Honestly, it was dark, but with that being said, it was also incredibly shocking and exciting, and there were so many things I just didn't see coming and that I really, really enjoyed. And I really, really would recommend this if you don't mind all of the elements I mentioned at the start. So, with that being said, I of course gave this a really solid 4.5 stars. It was so close to a 5, but I think this author can do a tiny bit more, and I'm really hoping that in the second book we get that. So I loved this. I thoroughly recommend it. I can't wait to hear if you guys have read it, what you think of it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.